to infinity and beyond.
This is me. This is how I win.
Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
You're a wizard, Harry.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you.
No, I am your father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the film room. Zach Goins here with Johnny Sobchak for the return of Inside the Film Room. It's been a minute since we last spoke with you. We hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know it seems like it's forever ago at this point, but we're excited to be back for a great episode today. It's a doubleheader, and we'll be catching up on some of the releases that hit theaters over Thanksgiving. So we'll be talking Encanto, we'll be talking House of Gucci, and of course, the explosive episode of Succession that just occurred. Johnny, how thrilled are you to be back on the podcast?
Boy golly, am I thrilled.
Boy golly, you know he's thrilled when he's breaking out boy golly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's been a little bit of a layoff, and I'm sure, it's been kind of a nice little break for us, but there is a lot to discuss, a lot that we've been doing kind of in the meantime. It is a thick of, well, I won't say it's the thick of award season, but it is a thick of screener season at the very least. We have
it's down to the wire to cram everything in there.
Dozens of films, no exaggeration, to either rewatch or watch for the first time, get in before awards consideration. Zach and I, for those of you who are listening and maybe don't know, are critics, part of the North Carolina Film Critics Association, which is very, very cool. And we do submit nominations later this month, and then we vote on winners in the beginning of January. So we do have legitimately a need, and I feel responsible, even more so than last year, which was just my first year. And it was kind of a weird year with COVID, and it seemed like less films than usual, which it probably was. And so this time it's a lot to cover, a lot of
This is your first time taking on the beast of a full year.
Yeah, and they're whining us, they're dining us, literally to some degree. So I do feel even more responsible to actually give these films a shot and a fair shake, and make sure that I can nominate them if I feel they are worthy, and lobbying for your favorite films, hyping up your favorite films. That's a fun part of it too. So yeah, it's good. And then of course, with the holidays, watching some stuff kind of for fun or with family members or friends.
Right. When do you squeeze in the Christmas movies in between screeners and new releases? Man. It's a mess.
Not a Christmas anything has been watched yet. Show, movie, anything. So we'll see what that looks like in a couple of weeks, but hopefully it'll be in a better position than it is now.
Yeah, I was able to squeeze in obviously, I spoke on it a couple of weeks ago on the pod, but Home Sweet Home Alone, two birds with one stone there with a Christmas movie and a new release. Not an awards contender, so I could not get three birds with one stone. But I watched that, and then I watched the original, the real, the good Home Alone to kick off the holiday season. But nothing yet beyond that. And then I'm also trying to catch up with rewatching the Spider-Man movies before that hits theaters to kind of refresh myself on the Spider-Verse. But it's been a whirlwind, like you said, and all the screeners and everything. But it's good problems to have when you've got a ton of movies to watch. So I can't complain too much. But I want to shout out, as we've been doing, the Rewind newsletter here. We have kicked this thing off a couple weeks ago. It was off last week, the last week and a half for the holiday. But we are back. We're coming at you with another newsletter with the release of this podcast. All you have to do is go to our website and subscribe. You get all the latest in movies, TV, news, all of that delivered straight to your inbox. It's It's simple, it's sweet, it links out to everything on the website, and you get some head starts on some of our biggest giveaways, which are about to really ramp up here as we've got the Inside the Film Room season of giving. Remy is thrilled about it in the background. We are going to be giving away a ton of movies, some merch, a lot of cool stuff coming your way. And like I said, you'll get the head start with the newsletter. All the rest will be on social media. And in order to be eligible to win those, you have to follow and subscribe to the newsletter. So it all starts with the rewind, and we'll really appreciate your support there. But now that the plug is over, what's been going on? I know you kind of hinted at your screeners. What have you been watching, Johnny? Give the people an update, since it's been quite some time since we last heard from you.
Yeah, it has been hectic. Like I mentioned at the top, and I'm trying to really, because it is getting towards the end of the year, not just with regards to award season, trying to get caught up on those things, but also, you know, I kind of just want to, in some ways, relax and kind of watch some of my favorite movies.
Amen, brother. Plus, for, I know you've been established, but I started a new job November 22nd, so it's been a whirlwind over there too.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing on my end is, although I have been with my current company since July, technically, I have been shifting and into different departments and training and doing all sorts of crazy things. So when I do get off work, yeah, it is kind of like I'm some level of exhausted or very tired. So it's finding that extra incentive or extra energy to throw something on. But Thanksgiving break was a great opportunity to get some stuff done. I'm not even sure what the date of our last show was, but it was
King Richard. I can't give you, let's see what the date was. That was the third,
yeah,
Monday,
before my birthday even.
Monday or Tuesday, the week before Thanksgiving, or the week of Thanksgiving, but prior to actual Thanksgiving. So we're going on 2 weeks.
Good grief. Well, let's see. I have watched, a dozen or more movies probably in that span. I watched some older movies for the first time, which I had been really looking forward to, including Mulholland Drive, which my girlfriend Reagan, she got me that as a kind of a fun little treat before my birthday. And then also I knocked Close Encounters off my list, the Steven Spielberg film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind from 1977. And then also a couple others, Brian De Palma film Sisters from 72, David Lynch, Eraserhead from 77 as well. And The Wailing, which is a 2016 Korean horror drama, which I had been on my list for a while, but was pretty daunting given the length and the dark subject matter. So I was able to dig through those over the last couple of weeks, in addition to the award season stuff that I wanted to check off. And that includes Tick, Tick, Boom, House of Gucci, Flea, The Last Duel, A Hero, The Worst Person in the World, The Power of the Dog. It has been, and those are some big names, some heavy contenders potentially, maybe some sleepers as well. So, and that was a range of quality, let's just say that, from the lows of Ridley Scott and The Last Duel or The House of Gucci to the epic highs of The Worst Person in the World, which is vying for my favorite and best film of the year, as well as The Power of the Dog, which I thought was also excellent. So, and then everything in between. I thought Flea was incredible. I tweeted about that. A Tick, Tick, Boom I thought was quite good as well, especially for Lin-Manuel Miranda's film directorial debut. Yeah, it's been a good mix. It's been solid, some foreign language films in there, some dramas, some comedy, musical, as I mentioned. So yeah, it's again a lot, but I'm very pleased, and no complaints really at all in regards to that stuff.
I'm glad that you were able to, once we got that big neon book, you were able to check out The Worst Person in the World, because I saw that at Film Fest 919 and it was fantastic. I was a big fan, but I'm glad that I know Josh loved it as well. So it's good that it's making its rounds finally with the group chat. But I will urge you to check out, I know it's not going to be an awards contender at the Oscars, because the Oscars do not fuck with her, but Petite Maman, I loved it so much. It's so good.
I plan on watching that that's definitely on my list. And it's a short film.
It's like 78 minutes. It's so fast. But I know you and I had chatted that you got your neon booklet. People were posting about it, and it's like their screener book that has all their movies in it. And mine was nowhere to be found. And apparently it got sent to my address, but was in Greensboro instead of Raleigh. So they had to reroute it, and I was finally able to get it. So I'm excited to dive into some of those. I still need to check out Pig. I want to check out Flea, rewatch Petite Maman, but I've been doing a bit of homework like you as well. I don't think to the same caliber, not as many movies. But as far as new releases go, I checked out Belfast, Encanto, which we're going to be talking about today. I caught up with Come On, Come On, The French Dispatch, and just last night I saw Swan Song, which hasn't released yet. So those are all the new releases. And then I've been rewatching some and watching for the first time. Jake generously gifted me the Punch Drunk Love Criterion. So that was interesting. I kind of saw that as I think that was my first PTA movie that I've seen. I know. So at least some sort of like little lead up to Licorice Pizza maybe. But I also, like I said earlier, am rewatching the Spider-Man movies. So I watched the OG there with Toby, which still obviously holds up incredibly well. But you know me, I always have my movie side, but I also have TV as well. And I don't think you've mentioned it, but we teased it on our last episode, but couldn't review it yet. Are you watching Hawkeye? Are you keeping up with the latest MCU Disney Plus show?
Hell no. Are you kidding me? I mean, this show might be good because from what I've heard, sounds like, I mean, to be fair, I haven't really heard that much about how good, quote unquote, it actually is. I have heard different plot elements and things like that, other details. But 3 episodes in, and this may be a good thing because I haven't had anything spoiled. It might be a bad thing. I don't know. But I have not actually heard anything about what the show is like necessarily. It's just kind of like little plot points that people are discussing or theories again, or things like that, which have been a consistent throughout these MCU shows. So yeah, I'm not keeping up with that. I suspect if people end up really liking it and it kind of goes all the way to the end, I will try to catch up and get back to it before anything else. Well, not anything else. I'll say before any of these other characters move on to other series or movies, for example. But it's definitely not a pressing thing, I would say.
Well, I will say that, you know, we've had our skepticism on the show, and I was not particularly thrilled about this just because of like Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, not like the biggest draw in the MCU. But I've been through 3 episodes. We're getting 4 tomorrow. So by the time you're listening to this podcast, the 4th will be out. But I've been a big fan so far. It's felt very grounded compared to some of the other stuff that we've seen lately. You know, it's not Eternals, it's not Loki and the TVA, but instead it's street crime in New York City. The duo between Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld works really well, I think. And I don't know, I feel like that's kind of been the key phrase. I may have said this when we were teasing it, but it's been like the key phrase of Phase 4 is that it doesn't feel like a Marvel movie. And so I don't want to like keep saying that, but this one I think is that is a fitting description because it does sort of have like almost the like Netflix level, which I know people are hit or miss on the Netflix shows. I didn't actually ever watch them, but I know like the vibe of them where it's not, you know, it just feels like a smaller scale thing, which I'm enjoying. And obviously you've got the Christmas aspect and the New York City aspect as well. So I'm pleased with it so far. I know we've kind of had great starts, or at least good starts to most of these shows, and very few have been able to stick the landing all the way through. So we'll see how the final 3 episodes go, but I'm a fan so far. I'm a believer in Hawkeye, but beyond the MCU, I'm still very much invested in the comings and goings of the OC and all of the teen drama that entails. I'm working my way through season 2 right now, but the biggest TV revelation that is happening right now, Johnny, is Succession, Sunday nights, 9:00. We've only got one more left before season 3 comes to a close. But the penultimate episode, episode 8, was, oh my God, what an episode. Fantastic hour of television. No?
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, this has to be one of the best episodes. Like,
yes, 100%.
History. I know we've probably said that once or twice this season so far, but I mean, this one, I would say, it's hard to kind of really gauge it with everything else that's gone on in the last, 2 months. But I mean, I would say this is probably the best episode of the season. There's a lot happening. It's very intense in a couple ways, and it's another destination episode. It's another wedding.
So I feel like those are so fun for success.
Yeah.
I feel like we've always had great success. Like most episodes of Succession are fantastic, but I feel like when it goes on we had Boar on the Floor, or like Shiv's wedding, like all of the ones that are at exotic locations just seem to take it to the next level.
Yeah, it does add a nice flavor to it, and adds, contrivances perhaps that wouldn't be in place without the destination element, which heats up some dramatic tension and conflict. And the the performances here, some of the funniest stuff to date, some of the most kind of brutal and unsettling and uncomfortable moments to date, whether it's between Logan and Kendall, or Shiv and Tom, or as far as the humor and comedy bits, like between Roman and then Logan. It just has
or Greg and the Contessa.
So there's some real good stuff here, and it because it is this destination wedding, it also is bringing back some characters that haven't been around in a while, like their mother. It is her wedding after all, and she has a pretty pivotal scene, I would say, with Shiv, where she kind of dives into her mental state, not only now but back when she became a mother and started to have kids with Logan, and what that kind of did to her, what that means, and what that process was like, leaving them and leaving Logan. So that was huge. And then there is a lot happening. Alexander Skarsgård, his character, Mattson, he is in the fold yet again after Too Much Birthday, and he is perhaps playing some mind games, potentially via social media with the Roy family and the company. And that is something else that is, certainly a big factor. Stewie is now involved to some degree, and Sandy, and kind of their position is being, weighed into all this as well. It's not just with the family now. So yeah, a lot of moving pieces, and it's very impressive in and of itself, but it's also setting up what could be an even greater kind of powder keg finale next week, which I'm so sad that it's almost over. I really can't believe it.
Because it's always been 10 episodes. Well, I say always, it's only been 2 seasons, but
right. That is true.
Why cut it short?
That is true. And we are probably rapidly approaching the end of this series in one way or another. I mean, there might only be 1 season left. Who knows? Maybe 2. And maybe those seasons like this one won't be full 10 episodes. Maybe they'll be this length or even shorter. So
Game of Thrones, this, man. Give us our full 10.
So this is, it's we'll see what Jesse Armstrong decides to do. But I'm happy the show is doing as well as it is. I feel like they have not messed it up. I feel like they haven't, shit the bed. And they continue to deliver, whether it's the performances, the writing, drama, comedy. It's all working, and and on top of it all, they continue to look amazing on these destination episodes with their clothes and their sunglasses and their jewelry and everything. So
the fact that they like that when Roman goes to see Mattson, I was watching with Rebecca, and I was just like, imagine like being on this exotic vacation destination wedding, and then you casually like hop in a helicopter, go get on a boat, ride to a private villa. Like you just, and he like Roman doesn't even like bat an eyelash at it. Like he's just like, it's so normal to them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just an extreme. Kendall's asking for $2 billion in his payout to leave him alone. Like, I can't even fathom
unimaginable wealth, gross wealth.
Well, I want to get into, that was a very great overarching analysis of what we had in this episode and the season as a whole. But getting down into the nitty gritty, spoiler alert for a couple of the biggest moments from this episode. The biggest one at the end, what they want you to believe is, leaving this episode, did Kendall die? Is Kendall, we see him drunk in the pool, face down on his float with his head underwater, and then it ends, and then they intentionally don't show him like front and center in the next preview. And it's, I think that was their intent, but it wasn't like, you know, Jon Snow getting stabbed or something like that. And then in season 5 of Thrones. But anyway, there was some brilliant stuff at work here. We had the callback all the way to season 1 where Logan tells Greg to keep an eye on Kendall because he doesn't want him to end up dead at the bottom of a pool. So great callback there. We had Kendall and Logan talking about Logan's death earlier, and Kendall saying how traumatized he'll be by that. But I think you shared it in the group that we settled on, this wasn't Kendall dying or Kendall trying to kill himself. He just wanted to experience what the person who he killed, the waiter from Shiv's wedding, felt when he was drowning underwater. And because Logan like had brought that up earlier in this episode, asking him like how long he was underwater for. And I think that's the case here. We see what we believe to be a Kendall noggin in the season or the season finale promo. Someone else I saw pointed him out at like a big group shot of the tables for the wedding. So I don't think that they would just kill him like that. We fully imagine Kendall is still alive, but a very traumatic ending to the episode. What was your instant reaction? What are the thoughts here, Johnny?
Yeah, it was a curious last few moments there. It's you know, a gut reaction was like immediately at what the hell was that? What does that mean? What is happening there? Kendall, you know, this guy is not mentally stable and has not been for a long time. And he was maybe perhaps at his lowest at the end of last week when he, well, I wouldn't say lowest in the entire show's history, but at the end of last week when his birthday party went kind of awry and he was just very depressed and emotional and feeling kind of alone. You know, he walks into this situation where he is kind of at odds with almost everyone, if not everyone, and he has shaved his head and he is, you know, around his kids. It just seems like, well, and he even says himself when he has this meeting with Logan, this kind of big showdown, he says, I don't know where I go from here. Like, what can I possibly do? I want out. I want to be let out. Like, let me out. He wants the money. He wants to cut and run. He doesn't know what that means exactly or what that's going to look like, but he, you know, has a number in mind. He has a deal in mind, and that's a deal that Logan is not wanting to kind of go for. He is now kind of leading him along, kind of suggesting that, oh, well, I would like you to be closer. I would like you to be, you know, kept in some form or fashion, despite, you know, being given that buyout last week at his birthday, which was now played off as like a joke or not like a serious offer. Again, it's like a mental head game that Kendall kind of knew was coming or like knew what it was in the moment and is now still positioning it like it was a legit deal. And even though I feel like he knows, you know, it wasn't. So
it almost gave me like Dark Knight Joker vibes when Heath Ledger's like talking about like how much Batman needs the Joker. Like Logan needs Kendall to still be against him. He can't let him run off and go away. But these two antagonists to each other, like keep driving each other forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison I hadn't thought of. And they have that scene where they are, face to face across a table, like in The Dark Knight. It is, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, to one degree, Kendall is a villain or kind of an obstacle for Logan and the family to face off against. He has a face, Kendall has a face, a name, a personality. He's in the spotlight and the media. And that's something that can, Kendall's goal and end game by leaving and coming out the way he did at the end of season 2 was to take over and to expose his family, expose the company. And so he was trying to be this, white knight on horseback that he describes in this episode, but it hasn't gone the way he thought it would. It has not been as successful. He hasn't gained the traction that he thought he would. The company hasn't suffered as he thought it would. So where does that leave him? Where can he go from here? And it doesn't really seem like he's caught in this horrible kind of between a rock and a hard place where he's not being let go. He can't just escape forever, but he also, there's no future where he can exist in this company. I mean, really, even in this family. So how does that get reconciled? And maybe it gets reconciled with Kendall drowning drunkenly in the pool. I mean, it may be, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case based on the preview. Spoiler alert for next week. We do see a quick glimpse of what looks like his shaven head in the background of one shot with Roman. Don't know what the context of that scene is. They are in the same room, and that seems kind of unusual. And Roman seems kind of in distress about something. But it does seem like Kendall's going to live. The way they leave it, certainly ambiguous. I can't imagine that they weren't thinking that people might think he's dead when they chose to end it like that. It would have made sense in a way, as I've kind of summarized here. But I think it's certainly better with Kendall around. I think Jeremy Strong is such a big asset to the show, and I think it would be very strange if he were to exit now. Maybe he is going to still have some sort of medical emergency, perhaps, and he'll still live, or maybe there's going to be some elaboration on what was going on there. Maybe someone else on Twitter alluded to the fact that he was maybe kind of trying to almost like it's like some form of like self-harm, where he's just trying to imagine what that kid like was experiencing like in the water after they crashed the car, trying to kind of replicate that and that suffering that he must have gone through. And it is like that self loathing that Kendall has going on. It wouldn't surprise me. That certainly is an interesting reading of it. Or maybe he just fell asleep on accident, and the next episode will open with him popping out of the water and spitting out water and being like, oh shit. It could be, they could go a different direction, or they might not even really touch on it at all. It might just be that image that kind of is open-ended and can, leave you thinking or guessing about what Kendall is doing there. But I mean, it was a kind of a surprising way to end the show. It certainly has us talking now, of course, but I'm not going to hold on to too much thinking about it going into next week.
Well, what was so like dramatic and the absolutely like whiplash inducing about this is where we came from. Getting into the next like gigantic moment of this episode is that I was quite literally on the floor after Roman Roy accidentally sends his father a dick pic, thinking he's trying to send it to Jerry. And I literally shouted, "What?" and like rolled off the couch onto the ground. I don't know if it was like a combination of shock and just like secondhand embarrassment and cringiness. And it was just like some absolutely visceral television to experience that. And the 4 frames that have been going around of Roman's emotional transition, his reaction from smugness and getting praised by Jerry and his father, to then realizing what he's done and the shame and embarrassment that's come with that, like that alone deserves an Emmy for just like those 4 screen caps. But Roman finally he's been crushing it. I know Kendall was Dad's number 1 boy, but Roman has filled that void this season and has been crushing it with Madsson and really kind of proving himself to his father professionally, maybe not personally, but he's getting some respect and some swagger. And then this happens, and it obviously sets a chain of events that, there's the scandal. Shiv's trying to capitalize on it. They're gonna pull Jerry into this and basically try and like oust her through it, and the Logan's reaction, but just the individual moment right here was just so utterly shocking and just horrifying. I don't know if you had the same sort of just visceral reaction to it that I did, but it was something.
Yeah, this was I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, it is fantastic acting on Kieran Culkin's part, and it is all in the facial expressions and he adds. I mean, it doesn't work. It's not nearly as funny in that moment seeing it the first time if he doesn't nail it, and he does. And there's just this arc. It's like a whole character arc in the span of a few shots and a few seconds. It's so funny, and it is important because it is coming directly in lieu of like this great position that Roman has kind of secured or kind of lobbied for with Logan, between Logan and between Madsson. We see the conversation between Madsson. We don't really know how it concludes. We're kind of left on a cliffhanger. And then it follows up where Roman shows up and he says, yeah, it's fucked. Like it's not going to go the way we thought it was. He's not looking to be bought out. He actually wants to merge and be on equal footing with us. And so that kind of seems like, wow, that's kind of, I mean, they're done for. Like Roman's he has shit the bed. And what is that going to mean for him and his position in the company? What is his dad going to say? And then minutes later, he's able to position it and angle it where Logan is actually open to being on level footing with Madsson and welcoming into the
and
company.
Even Shiv, someone who's got like absolutely nothing to gain from a successful move by Roman, is still able to like get on board with it, whether it's probably begrudgingly, but still like she's not anti it just because Roman came up with it.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, Shiv is kind of it's at this point, it seems like they are well aware that it's go big or go home. Like you're going to be fucked if you don't do this. And they can't afford not to. If Roman is saying, okay, yeah, we can do this, I think we can make it make sense, then I think they're going to be open to it. Even Shiv, even Logan. And lo and behold, they are open to it. They're going to move on with this, it seems like. But right after Jerry texts Roman and says, wow, great job, Roman. The way he was able to swing that from what he was kind of saying and describing to Jerry in the hall before the meeting to how it just kind of seemed to work out, was quite a big swing. And then he responds to, and I said on Twitter, Chekhov's gun, that's old hat. What is really the thing moving forward is going to be Roman's dick pics, because earlier in the whole episode earlier on, there's this confrontation between Jerry and Roman, and Jerry is at the wedding, the pre-wedding festivities with her partner, Lori, who Roman is like harassing throughout the episode like an asshole, like a maniac. And she confronts him and says, you got to stop doing this. Like, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what your plan is, but you can't continue to like harass me and send me these unsolicited nude images. And he's like, oh, he like plays it off as a joke or like doesn't care and says, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop until I fuck you. I fuck your husband or whatever. And so that's that. And you're like, God, this guy is just like demented. Like he will not relent. And and then it kind of, there's the through line where he is acting like a dick, of course, throughout the show and harassing her partner Lori and everything. But there's no dick pic stuff happening. Like it's just this weird tension. And then of course she kind of caves in a little bit and is a little too nice to him by sending that text in the meeting. And of course he looks at that as a window to just be like, oh yeah, I'll send you a picture of my dick. Let's do that now. That's a normal thing to do. And it fucking burns his ass because he accidentally somehow, and I'll have to go back, I haven't actually watched that part of this
because Logan texted him at the same time as he was sending it and was like, good job kiddo, we're proud of you or something. That was like shocking for Logan, honestly. And Roman like swiped and it switched over to that conversation.
Oh my God. And it's funny because in the moment, I was watching this with Reagan as well, and in the moment after he sent it, she was like, wait, like, did he just send that to his dad? And I was like, no, he sent it to Jerry, right? And she was like, I don't think so. And I was like, huh. And then because I didn't realize, that the entire rest
like Roman did not realize.
No, like the entire rest of this episode is about to be dedicated to this dick pic. Because I'm like, there's no way he did that. Because if he did, I mean, that opens up a whole thing, right? And of course it does. And then, it's hilarious. It's probably the funniest part of the entire show. Like the hardest I've ever laughed watching the show. And there's been some hilarious moments, don't get me wrong. But yeah, that was pretty significant. And it has legitimate consequences because now Logan is like, well, what the fuck? Like we just got out of the sexual kind of misconduct situation, or at least to some degree. And now I have my COO sending these pictures to my not my president, but my CEO, and like harassing her, leveraging, like doing this. And Roman like doesn't really have an answer for it. Shiv is now using it to her advantage. Like she is so just she's terrible, but she is now using it. She goes to Jerry and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, what do you need? It's just it's us girls and I want to help you. But really what she's doing is positioning herself to fuck Roman and or fuck Jerry and get herself into a better position as potentially an officer.
And J. Smith, her like transition from like CEO Jerry to lawyer Jerry in 0.5 seconds when Shiv confronts her is fantastic. The way that she's like, oh, I don't recall. No, I don't. Like the way that she just immediately goes so formal and is defending herself and Roman and like immediately recognizes Shiv's not subtle about what she's doing because like you said, Shiv is the worst. And that kind of, I know we don't want to ramble on about Roman's dick for too long because there's a couple other episodes or a couple other moments that I want to touch on. But Shiv has just been horrible to in general, but to Tom specifically in this episode, the way that things get so out of hand in their dirty talk. Well, first of all, you mentioned it earlier, the discussion with her mother, where she's basically, her mother tells her like, you're not cut out to be a mom. I wasn't either. I should have had dogs, whatever. And I told Rebecca, I was like, oh, she's going to go to Tom immediately and say, let's have a baby, because not because she wants it, not because she knows Tom wants it, but because her mom said she wouldn't be good at it. That's going to have her do it. And so then of course that's what she does. And while they're getting intimate, Shiv wants this dirty talk. And instead of, just like normal kinky stuff, she's telling him like, you don't deserve me. I'm too good for you. And that's why you love me. You know that you're not good enough for me. Like all of this heartbreaking stuff. And Tom is like startled and taken aback, but goes with it kind of. And then obviously has some regrets the next morning trying to check in and make sure that that was not real, because it quite actually was. But then of course we've got Greg also shooting his shot from outer space as he is trying to get with Comfrey and with the Contessa. So those are my other two highlights from the episode. Yeah.
It was just all around. Yeah. I mean, I certain those moments that you mentioned certainly stuck out. It was a banger. I mean, there's really not much else if you want to put it as unsubtly or as without as much nuance as possible. It was just a banger in all the ways that we were hoping it would be, and in some ways that we weren't probably expecting it to be. So I was very impressed with this episode, penultimate episode, and yeah, I don't really know. I have no idea how the hell this season is going to conclude. Like, I don't think anyone saw the end of season 2 coming. I don't think anyone saw Kendall breaking off and turning on his entire family, turning on his dad. What could we possibly be looking at here with the finale? I don't even want to hazard a guess, but maybe you do.
I don't have anything that I'm like willing to bet the house on or anything, but my hunch is that it's not going to be Kendall who dies. If someone dies, it's not going to be Kendall. It's going to be Logan. Because I kind of said it in the group, like that will put the show in a new direction. Like obviously if Kendall were to die, there would be plenty of changes, but the overall dynamic of Logan bossing the kids around and them doing what he says would still remain intact. But if Logan dies, that kind of thrusts everything into chaos and reopens a whole new ball game. Maybe Kendall, as devastated as he would be, because he said that multiple times, maybe he's suddenly encouraged to get back into the business, and just when he thought he was fading. But if he doesn't die, it's not like I'm going to be shocked or surprised or disappointed or anything, because like you said, season 2 finale was fantastic and completely unpredictable. So I am expecting the same level of quality from this one.
Yeah, it would be. That would be, an incredible turn of events. I can't imagine. It would be a Game of Thrones-esque twist if at this wedding, Logan just croaks, like whether, for whatever reason, maybe he has a heart attack, maybe he chokes on something and goes out Joffrey style. There could be so many variations on how this goes, but how amazing would it be if, leading up to the end credits, like he dies and then it's just a mad scramble. Like everyone just like is flying and fleeing from this wedding to like get back to New York, like get back to wherever, go meet with Madsen or Stewie or Sandy to like move. As well as they have kind of been functioning as some sort, with some semblance to a like unit between Shiv, Roman, Tom, and the others. And then of course, Kendall's kind of on the outside looking in. I imagine it would be like, it would be every man for themselves in some regard. Because at this point they haven't had a stable, kind of dialogue, at least between like Shiv and Jerry and Roman, where they can all agree and be like, this is what would happen if Logan dies, or this you would become, the new leader, you would move into this position, we would do this. There's no real plan, it doesn't seem like. So it would be a very interesting, it would set the stage for an incredible season 4. In that position, it might be the last season. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't want to say anyone's going to die. That seems like a huge gamble. I wouldn't bet the house on that. But I do think, we've had significant moments in, each of the last season finales. In the season finale of season 1, Kendall, as he's getting ready to break away from and buy the company from his family and kind of get this amazing deal and take over, he fucking kills a kid, and Logan blackmails him essentially into stepping down. And end of last season, it seems like Logan was ready to send Kendall to prison, take a fall for the entire company, and then he twists it and turns at the last second to put himself on the outside and put him in a position to expose his family and seize control. And now I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like something is brewing, and I just can't say for sure what it is, but it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be quite a number.
Agreed. Well, Sunday at 9:00 cannot come soon enough. We are thrilled to check out the conclusion of arguably the best show on television. But moving into news for the week, we've got a couple. I know, we try to diversify our brand, but it is all 3 superhero news this week. So if you're not a superhero fan, fast forward on to the reviews. But we are talking about some big stuff, honestly. First trailer and teaser arrived for the follow-up to Into the Spider-Verse. We've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse this time, and the news that it will be split into 2 parts. So part 1 is arriving October 7th, 2022. We got our first look at it. I guess it wasn't really like a true trailer almost. It was almost more of like a scene with a sizzle. But it picked up exactly where Into the Spider-Verse ended, with the vision of Gwen kind of breaking through the multiverse to say hello again to Miles. And this time he jumps through her portal and goes with her. We get Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac, who seems to be chasing Miles for some reason. But what was your reaction other than just like, I feel like this is a big surprise that this happened. It happened Saturday night during college football, like championship games. I was kind of caught off guard by it, but the look of it was fantastic. It was beautiful. It looked just as stunning as the first movie. And obviously I'm super thrilled with this and excited to dive into it. What about you?
Yeah, this is quite a follow-up. I mean, the first movie, people love that movie. I mean, people go nuts for that movie. And it seemed like everyone was going nuts for it at the time when it released. But it didn't like necessarily jump out as like a massive hit, maybe in the same way that it could have or should have. I think a lot of people were underestimating it. People said, oh, it's Sony. They're just doing a cash grab. They know Spider-Man's popular. And that's fair. I think very few people expected it to be good, let alone as good as what it ended up being.
Right. It didn't have the hype that leading up to it. The hype was like non-existent unless you're like a deep cut superhero fan.
But at the same time, it is Spider-Man. Like it is the most popular superhero, arguably, up there with Batman, Superman. But this movie, the first movie, it grossed less than Dune worldwide. And Dune, of course, there's a pandemic. It has HBO Max, and it is a completely different sort of story. And marketability wise, it is not Spider-Man by any stretch of the imagination. Whether it's the humor, the action, the colors, the style, and everything. But yeah, this I thought is certainly looking to carry that mantle, carry that momentum and that hype and that love for the first movie, stylistically, tonally, but opening it to so many different possibilities, not with what they're bringing into Miles's world, but it seems like what they will be dragging him through into these other versions of reality. And I think that is really exciting. I wasn't really expecting that. I guess I didn't really see that coming. So I thought that was kind of a cool revelation. I'm looking forward to see all the different animation styles I'm sure they're going to use in these different worlds. And as you mentioned, it isn't like a typical trailer. It's kind of hard to understand what this is going to show exactly. Like, is what we see in this little sizzle at the end, is that going to be consistent with what's actually in the movie? Like, is that a scene that we're going to actually see in the movie? Or is it just something to show us kind of what the concept is going to be like? You know what I mean? Because even when he's going through these different worlds, you get a sense of what the animation will be like, what the style will be like, or the aesthetic, but it's not like finished or like detailed. I guess I don't know if that was like a stylistic choice that they're going to be doing like with the movie, or if it was just like they don't want to show their hand or it's not done. But it's like it's almost like outlined and like very just kind of like a base kind of detail for the different like designs of the vehicles, the buildings, the backgrounds. But the Miles himself and then, Spider-Man 2099, they're still like quite detailed and colorful, kind of bouncing through. So not really sure, but it's a great, kind of way to just set the tone and give you a little taste of it. It's going to be huge. I think it's going to be really an event. I think this is going to be, and speaking of Dune, I think that is actually an interesting comparison. I think that's no one expected Dune to do as well as it did, or for as many people to like it as they kind of have in the last couple of months. And so I think, as much as I think Dune is going to do even, significantly exponentially better when part two comes out, at least at the box office and everything, I think this is going to be very similar. I mean, like I said, the last one made less than $400 million worldwide. I think the opening weekend was like 35 million, 40 million or something. I could see this opening with like close to 100 million, or worldwide end up grossing like 800 million. Cause I think this is just, I mean, it's, PG probably, very accessible. It's even just gained more, strength and popularity in recent years. So this is going to be huge. I think this is really, and it's kind of stolen the thunder from No Way Home in some regards as well, which is just a testament to how much people like this.
Well, I want to go, before we move on to No Way Home. I'm curious, like the idea of making this a part one, part two movie. Part two is coming in 2023. So it'll be back-to-back years, but like, what does that mean? Is this going to be like a Dune going back to Dune? Is it going to be like half of a story and a cliffhanger? Like, why not make this Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and Out of the Spider-Verse, or some like another preposition? But just like, why is it going to be Across the Spider-Verse part one and part two? That seems odd. Like the phrasing of, like, obviously we'll have to wait and see the story to see if that makes sense. Like, as a part of like a cohesive, like there was Into the Spider-Verse and then there were two parts of the sequel, or is it going to be like, is it just like unbranding mechanism for this movie? Cause that's the thing to, Deathly Hallows part one, part two, Dune part one, part two, Quiet Place part one, part two. Like,
yeah. I think my thought on that, at least, is imagining, kind of the process is that they, planning for the sequel, they ended up developing a narrative that ended up being much larger than could possibly fit into one sequel. And knowing that, maybe it will be a significant cliffhanger, maybe it will be very open-ended, similar to Dune part one. And so they're just approaching it like it's kind of one big movie, but they know that they can't possibly release it as such. So they just want to, they don't want to make it be read as two separate things. They just want it to be this one kind of two-part mega event. And it's in this case, it's going to be released at most 1 year apart, maybe even less, less than 12 months. It's going to be 2022 and 2023. So we won't have to wait long, which is great. And I'm sure this is actually, it's probably all being produced together, recorded together, animated together, much like, the most two-part films are done that way. Dune is kind of like an exception. So that would surprise me. And I think, realistically, we're probably looking at part two of this, maybe that'll be it. Maybe it'll be kind of like this trilogy, or like this extended story of this character and this kind of world and storytelling. And then we won't get other movies after this, or at least direct sequels. Maybe we'll get more spinoffs. I know they were talking about a Spider-Gwen movie and maybe a female-centric movie in this world or in these worlds. That's something I could see. But it will be very interesting to see what the possibilities are beyond 2023. But for right now, of course, very excited about this. Looking forward to it. This and the Batman, I think, of course, Doctor Strange, very anticipated. Thor 4, very anticipated. But I think the hype at this moment is very much focused on these two movies, and people are very, very pleased by the trailers.
Agreed. Well, speaking of Spider-Man, we don't have to spend too long on this, but it seems like every time Tom Holland is brought up and his future as Spider-Man, there's some sort of controversy, whether it's Sony and Disney or Sony and Marvel, like arguing over the rights. And it's always in jeopardy. Will he be playing it? And, he kind of had these like allusions in his comments leading up to No Way Home, saying like, this may be the last time I put on the suit, or like stuff like that. But rest easy. It has been confirmed Tom Holland will be doing another MCU Spider-Man trilogy. That's the news now. So maybe after the fourth movie, they might come back with another dispute or something, and it might be in jeopardy again. But as of now, Tom Holland is confirmed for another MCU Spider-Man trilogy. It'll be away from the Home trilogy, obviously, a Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. So I know you were a proponent before, I believe even Homecoming came out, or maybe right after it, talking about like his ability as an actor to grow with this role, to see a not middle-aged, a 30-year-old Peter Parker, you know, see his take on how many movies he'll do, how long he'll play this character, and kind of be able to grow with him, which I'm very on board with. And I've enjoyed his arc so far. So are you still standing by that? Are you excited by a new trilogy coming his way?
Damn it, I am. I stand by it. I stand by what I've said in the past, despite the mixed feelings I may have about his solo movies. You know, today, and I say mixed, although I do really like Homecoming. I still really like that movie. I loved it when it first came out. I will go to bat for that movie every day, even though I do feel like stylistically, dramatically, it doesn't really, it doesn't feel quite as great or as significant as maybe the first Spider-Man movie with Sam Raimi, or maybe Spider-Man 2 as well. But you know, Far From Home, no, I'm not really big on that one. And No Way Home is looking like it could kind of go either way. Like, I am very nervous about how potentially mishmashed and messy this could be, while also acknowledging it could be a very fun, interesting, different sort of comic book movie that does some exciting things and isn't just totally relying on nostalgia or bad jokes or questionable CGI and things like that. There's a lot of concern there, but maybe it'll be good. If anything, I'm looking forward to the new trilogy because it will give us more of this Peter Parker. It will develop him more, hopefully,
Right.
And develop him as a character that is divested from Iron Man, that is divested from these other Spider-Man characters. You know, we assume that he's going to meet Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and maybe meeting these characters and whatever happens in this movie plot-wise, maybe it's this movie that is going to set off the next trilogy and what that story will look like and how he's influenced by these Spider-Man. Maybe that'll push him to new heights, to do new things as a character. I think that could be a very cool angle to take with it. Similar to how in Into the Spider-Verse, I mean, Miles, he is just becoming Spider-Man, and that's not really where, you know, Tom Holland Spider-Man is at this point, but he isn't quite the Spider-Man yet. Like, he's still young, he's still in high school, he's still developing. And I think that could be a very cool take on it. And I hope that it is, you know, we get to see Peter in college. We get to see him maybe finally going to the Daily Bugle and maybe becoming a photographer, becoming, you know, closer to the Peter Parker that we maybe know from the Sam Raimi movies, who is at that kind of level, becoming more of an adult. You know, his relationship with MJ will be evolving, I'm sure. And maybe Oscorp, you know, becomes a situation there. Maybe Norman and Harry, maybe those are characters that get introduced. We'll have to wait and see, but I think that would be very interesting. And of course, as you mentioned, age-wise, a trilogy from now, Tom Holland will be in his 30s. Hell, I'll be in my 30s. You'll be in our 30s. So that will be a very, you know, Tom Holland, he looks young, of course, but they can certainly get into college. They can go beyond college into like a career, whatever that might look like, a family potentially. I mean, there's a lot they can do. And I think 3 more movies definitely seems like a sure thing. Wouldn't surprise me if we see more beyond that. I know that they don't want to, you know, kind of show their hand, but I definitely suspect that there is more to come on that front. And
well, that's what has me most excited about this. Everything that you said, I completely agree with. That, you know, when you look at it, we had Tobey Maguire for 3 movies. We had Andrew Garfield for only 2 movies. Like, we've already had 3 Spider-Man movies, 2 Avengers movies, a Captain America movie. We've had 6 movies so far with this Spider-Man. We're getting another 3. Like, that's something that we haven't ever had before on screen, to be able to see this character over such a long span of time. And so to really get to, like you said, graduate high school, go to college, work for the Daily Bugle, get married. Like, maybe we're going to be dealing with like old man Peter Parker that we saw in Spider-Verse, the Jake Johnson voiced Peter Parker, you know, like this could be the possibilities are like something that we've never seen in live action with Spider-Man before. So that's super exciting for me.
Yeah, speaking of that version of Peter Parker, Miles Morales 100% seems to be on the table as far as the MCU goes, not to mention a number of other characters that may or may not be in live action already. But Miles Morales in particular is one that Tom Holland himself has pointed out as, hey, maybe they'll just do Miles Morales now. Maybe they don't need me. Of course, he's bullshitting, but Miles Morales showing up once Peter goes off to college, maybe he becomes a mentor to a Miles Morales, who's still in high school. Maybe that becomes a key figure, maybe not the next movie, but that maybe the movie after that or the movie after that throughout this next trilogy. And then from there, Miles Morales, maybe he gets his own spinoff movie. And then even later down the line, both of these characters are in the Avengers movies together, or they, eventually at some point he is going to leave, Peter Parker or Tom Holland. It's hard to imagine. I could see him playing this character for 10 more years, potentially, if not longer. When he leaves, what that looks like, what that means, is impossible to say. I could see a Logan, maybe not tonally Logan-esque, but a movie where Peter, he is pushed, to the absolute limit or at the end. And maybe they kill him off. Maybe they give him a movie where they just kill Peter Parker. They kill Spider-Man, and Miles Morales then has to kind of carry the mantle. They killed Robert Downey Jr. as well as Tony Stark. Chris Evans is Captain America. He is essentially dead. They've shown they're not afraid to kill iconic characters and iconic actors in these roles as well. So the possibilities are endless. I'm still excited despite all my issues that I do have or criticisms. I am a fan of Spider-Man. I'm a fan of Tom Holland. And I am a fan of the MCU overall. So lots to contemplate and whatnot. But No Way Home, that's the next step. That's the next big thing. And we will have a lot to say, I'm sure, afterward.
Well, one more piece of MCU news. Just a quick hitter here. We got confirmation that Shang-Chi will be getting a sequel. Not really a surprise, I would say, after its success and the fan reception to that. Shang-Chi sequel is in development. Director Destin Daniel Cretton is returning. So the crew will be back together. Who knows where they are headed after stepping through the portal with Wong and everything that wrapped up at that movie. But not much beyond just that announcement there. But on the flip side, in the DC world, Johnny, I know you're just absolutely just going crazy about the fact that the Reeves verse is expanding, ever expanding. Colin Farrell will be, we knew this show was happening. We knew that there was going to be a Penguin spinoff, that it was in development, but it is now confirmed Colin Farrell will be reprising the role from the Batman movie as the Penguin in this HBO Max spinoff series that will reportedly delve into the Penguin's rise to power in the Gotham criminal underworld. So obviously we've gotten that there's going to be a Gotham PD spinoff series. This is now the second one from Matt Reeves' Batman. More or less excited for this than Gotham PD? Reactions, thoughts, what have you?
Yeah, so this is something we've known about for a long time, frankly, that we're attempting to develop a Penguin show. Seems like that's finally getting off the ground. It was a little unclear previously if Colin Farrell would be interested in doing the show, if he would be willing to sign on and carry. He's a huge name actor. He's a huge veteran. He's not really done television as far as I know, or at least something I can think of off the top of my head. So that's a huge step. And so the fact that he is involved, he has signed on, I think that speaks, and he's an executive producer as well as Matt Reeves, of course, who's behind the films. And it's HBO Max. They put out great content as we know, and it's unclear if this is going to would be an ongoing series, if this would be a limited series of 6, 8, 10 episodes, and then that would be it. I think I could definitely take it either way. I think it would make sense if it was limited, because it is kind of showing just the kind of rise of this character, and then I would imagine the movies will kind of take the reins from there. But I'm super excited. I love Colin Farrell. I think he's a fantastic actor. He's a fantastic character actor. He looks to be one of the highlights of the new film. He's just really going for it, and it's like it is kind of like a bit of comic relief to a degree. and you can just, but he still has like this nasty kind of gross edge to him as the Penguin, which I think really works. And I'm excited. I think people are going to come out of the movie really talking him up. And I think anyone who's maybe a little trepidatious about this announcement or this news will not really be feeling that necessarily after the movie comes out. But if anything, Matt Reeves, he's the king. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has this plan to a T. He's got his movie. He's got another movie after that. And he's most likely going to have another movie after that. He's got all these characters he's developing, all these, stories he's working on, fleshing out this entire world of Gotham that he's creating. Maybe there'll be a Catwoman series with Zoe Kravitz or a mini series. Maybe there'll be other characters that get introduced throughout the trilogy that end up with shows on HBO Max, of course. And then we know he's doing that animated series that he's helping produce with Bruce Timm, which is kind of its own thing, but still kind of inspired by his take on the Batman. And then, of course, the film that's coming out in March, and then the trilogy that will presumably take off from there. So I'm all for it. Matt Reeves is a genius. I love that he has so much power and creative control over this world, and with a company like Warner Brothers and at HBO and HBO Max. I think that's just a recipe for success. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see the performance from Colin Farrell. I'm excited to see more of this world. And I would say Gotham PD, we don't really know where that's going yet. We don't know the cast or too much about what the tone's going to be like. But I would say I'm more excited for this just off Colin Farrell in the role, in and of itself. I think that will be very fun and tough to pull your eyes away from. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited for Gotham PD and anything else that they have cooking. And who knows what the next. Again, this is similar to the Tom Holland situation with Spider-Man. Matt Reeves and his Batman universe, that's primarily focused on Robert Pattinson. Who knows where it's going to go from here, though? I mean, what other characters will introduce, what other aspects they're going to bring into it, what they can develop. But I am 100% on board and excited.
Yeah, I'm pumped up about this. We were on the verge of getting Peacemaker, which looks great. I'm fired up about how much of an investment DC and Warner Bros. Is making into putting original streaming content on HBO Max from these movies that's just as equal in scale to the movies themselves. So I'm very pumped up about this. It sounds like maybe we could be getting a, back on Disney Channel when they used to do like That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, like maybe we'll get like a Gotham PD Penguin Catwoman crossover series between all three of them, like one special episode.
Yeah, I mean, that's even something on Disney Plus. I mean, that was something that I know they were talking about between Mandalorian and then this Rangers show that they were discussing and the Boba Fett show. I think, streaming offers a lot of opportunity. As long as the storytelling is good, as long as the acting's good, the writing, I'm all for it. Go crazy, do what you want. And I trust and hope that Matt Reeves and the people writing the show and running it, they will handle it. And it's similar with Dune as well. I mean, we got Dune Part 1, and then of course we know they have a Sisterhood, Bene Gesserit show in the works. They have a Dune Part 2, maybe a Dune Messiah movie down the line. So HBO Max, they're going to factor in a lot. They're going to help produce and write, and Denis Villeneuve's going to have a role, executive producing, directing an episode or two. So there's a lot there. And this, again, the Batman comes out in March. When is this Penguin show going to be filmed and released? I mean, maybe this will be kind of like a bridging project between the first movie and then the second movie. Maybe it's something that we get, in the intervening years. So I think that'd be interesting as well. Lots of possibilities.
Definitely. Well, let's get into the first review for the week. We are talking about Encanto, the latest musical from Disney Animation, which hit theaters over Thanksgiving week. And, I feel like this movie just sort of happened. Well, I'll get into that in a bit, but, there wasn't much fanfare around it, but I was able to check this out. We're splitting up the workload this week. I'm talking Encanto. Johnny will be handling House of Gucci later on. But for the rundown on Encanto, starring Stephanie Beatriz, Maria Cecilia Botero, Diana Guerrero, Angie Cepeda, John Leguizamo, and Jessica Darrow. Currently sitting at 90% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 93% audience score. And my score is an 83 out of 100. So I went into this kind of not knowing what to expect. I wasn't particularly knew it'd be good because it was Disney. I wasn't really anticipating it necessarily. I was I just thought it would be a fun Disney animated movie, but I was actually very impressed with what I saw. The Madrigals are an extraordinary family who live hidden in the mountains of Colombia in a charmed place called the Encanto. The magic of the Encanto has blessed every child in the family with a unique gift, except Mirabelle. However, she soon may be the Madrigal's last hope when she discovers that the magic surrounding the Encanto is now in danger. So I was kind of expecting more of a big grand adventure from this movie. I feel like that tends to be the way that these Disney animated or Pixar animated movies go. But especially, with this being in the holiday slate where we've gotten like a Frozen or a Moana in the past, but it was a fairly grounded family adventure. There wasn't anything like a big quest or anything to go on. It stayed in the same location mainly. It really used the house to its advantage, and just like the Encanto, if you will. But it was a good change up because of like I said, what I was expecting, what I thought it would be like. I was surprised with how well they were able to handle it on a smaller scale. But going back to my original point, I wanted to say that this movie, it wasn't, I feel like it came and went, and there hasn't been, a lingering hype of a Let It Go like Frozen, the just the world smashing sensation of that, or even like the hype of Moana, which is another movie that has music from Lin-Manuel Miranda in it. Like, this movie is a Disney animated movie. It's a holiday slate. It's got Lin-Manuel Miranda's music in it. And there's not like a ton of buzz around it, which is a shame because it's actually really, really a great movie. The music is so catchy. Everything about it is enjoyable. So I'm kind of curious as to why that is, why I feel like there hasn't been much conversation around it. But it's a bit disappointing. The music overall, like I said, there isn't like a song that's like a Let It Go or How Far I'll Go, but top to bottom, really, really solid stuff. It's super catchy and fun. And I think it's all equal quality because I couldn't figure out which one was like the song that they're going to push for best original song at the Oscars. Like I said, there wasn't necessarily like that power ballad from the female lead, but instead they're all just kind of equally entertaining across the board. And I had to look up afterwards that it was in fact Dos Orgullitas, which is being pitched for campaign for the Oscars. So final thought before I pass it over to Johnny to interrogate me, but I feel like as far as these movies go, it felt fairly adult in its like thematic elements. Huge emphasis on family here. It's kind of like a dysfunctional family. Everybody has these powers, but Mirabelle is left out, and people kind of think that she's jealous or that she wants to kind of get this attention. So it's a big story about how to find your place in the family, how to accept yourself, and know that even though you think you're not good enough, you are. So it's kind of some stuff like hopefully kids can see that and like learn the message, but it's also like a good entertaining message for adults to kind of connect with. So it wasn't something where it was just like all fun and games and no substance to it. So that's my rundown. 83 out of 100. Johnny, I know you've got some questions prepared for me, so let it rip. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, so it doesn't sound like, it sounds like it's a very good movie. And that's certainly indicated by the Rotten Tomatoes score and everything. And critics are going nuts for it. Seems like on the whole, big contender for the Oscar, I would imagine. What do you think, especially out of the, this is not the only Disney animated film that has made waves this year, set to compete for awards and things like that. How would you say this compares to the other two that we have seen this year from Disney? Of course, Raya and the Last Dragon was from Disney Animation in March, and then Luca over the summer from Pixar. How would you say it stacks against those, in and of themselves, but then also with regards to like awards contention with that on the horizon?
I I would say this was my favorite of those.
Okay.
I was not crazy about Raya whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was very, very mid to me. This is when you've got my 2021 rankings pulled up, this is actually right next to Luca, just ahead of it. So not a ton separating them. I think we kind of talked about Luca being just more of the lighthearted adventure, nothing too deep. It was very kind of like surface level, but like still in a good way. And like it was simple in a good way, where I think that what makes the difference here is that it does have that substance on top of like the excellent animation and the fun Disney style and the magic and everything.
Yeah. Gotcha. And that's another thing too. Like, I know growing up, I say growing up, I mean, like in the last 10 years or so, when I was, I guess, really like in the beginning of high school and then throughout high school and throughout college, it really became a fun element. And this was something that I'm sure was going on even before that, naturally with movie going and Disney and family films, but like the holiday corridor,
the November Disney animated
movie window, right before or at Thanksgiving. I think the first time I really remember was Wreck-It Ralph. I think that was 2010 maybe, or 2012. That was one where I remember seeing it right around that time, and I was like, wow, this movie is really great. And I actually, it was a weird situation where I saw it. I didn't go with anyone. It was like kind of like on my own. And then of course there was Frozen, and I think that was 2013, and that was a really great, hey, you say what you want about it now, but it was a pretty significant movie when it came out. And
right, like I mean, Frozen has been overexposed, but it doesn't take away from like the quality of the movie.
And it came out like I loved going to see it with my family. It was really fun. And then Moana was in there 5 years ago now. I think Coco was the year after that, which I remember going to see with my family on my birthday, and that was a fun time as well. So it's always nice to get these. I think no matter if they're good or decent to great, I think it's just nice to have them. How would you say with those recent ones? And I'm sure I'm forgetting some others, but between Frozen 1 and 2, Wreck-It Ralph 1 and 2, Coco, Moana, The Good Dinosaur, I think also falls in there somewhere. Would you say, how would you say it stacks up against those historically? Would you say it's towards the top, more in the middle?
Well, I went ahead. So after I've watched this, I actually went and put a list together of what I called the new era of Disney animation. So not like limiting it just to the holiday window, but not Pixar, just Disney animation studios. I haven't seen Tangled or Big Hero 6, which I know are two really good ones. But I went ahead and ranked the 8 that I have starting in 2020 or 2010 moving forward. So this falls pretty much right in the middle, so I've got Moana first, then Frozen, Zootopia, Encanto, Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Raya, and Frozen 2. And like, I think Raya is like a 3-star, 3.5 stars, 3 stars for me. So it's not like it's bad by any means. I wasn't a fan of Frozen 2. But like 1 through 6 on that list are all like 4 stars. Like I love those. So this being the middle of the pack is not like a bad thing. Those ones above it, the Moana, Frozen, and Zootopia, those are fantastic, like great animated movies, legendary animated movies for me. So I'm I was still am a big fan of this.
All right. Well, that bodes well. I do still need to see it myself, which is why I'm not chiming in on this. It wasn't one that as you mentioned, it kind of just happened. I know there's a lot going on at the movie theaters right now. It's the holidays as well, so and there's a lot on streaming too. So it is a little bit harder to kind of get that foothold. I think it's doing fairly well at the box office, but I do, of course, as I said, I do like having these movies around this time of year, and I certainly will see it before I do awards voting and everything. Just got to get my self over to the theater.
That was my struggle because I didn't see anything while I was home for Thanksgiving, anything new. So I just kind of picked two. I went to the movies twice last week to see this and to see Come On. So I'm playing catch up.
And speaking of comparison, this will be the last thing I raise on this film, but you know, the quality of animation, I know Disney has like been the standard bearer along with Pixar, which is kind of under the same umbrella for a long time now. But every time a new movie comes out from Disney or Pixar, they talk about, you know, it's somehow they've topped themselves, or they've outdone the previous film. It seems like, you know, at some point, don't they have to like run out of of options for how to reinvent themselves or how to continue to do something that's visually interesting or innovative? You know, it started with Tangled, which was over 10 years ago now, where they did that very expensive, very unique, at the time at least, new take where it was like a combination, like a hybrid of 2D, like hand-drawn animation and like CG, like three-dimensional animation. And that's kind of what they've essentially maintained through, you know, now with these newer films. It's like, it does have a distinction from, I would say, like what Pixar typically does, where, you know, at least earlier on, Pixar kind of had its own sort of house style to it. Now with these, it's like, it's almost like interchangeable. Like Raya had very impressive animation. Luca had almost like a different style though, you know, talking about just this year. And then now looking into next year, Pixar is once again kind of going back to that photo real, hyper detailed style. And it was certainly with Lightyear, and I would say even with Turning Red as well. How would you say Encanto again kind of stacks up to what we've seen in recent years, and then what has also been in this year, and then what we know is around the corner?
Yeah, I would say that this is very, I agree with you. Like at a certain point, I feel like it's peaked, at least until like the next new technology comes along or whatever, in the designer world. But there was nothing that, you know, really stood out as in like, wow, I can't believe they're doing this now, or like that's something new that I haven't seen before, which like is not to say that the animation was bad or anything. It's just like, it's so good that like, you know, it is maintaining its standard of quality. So it wasn't anything like new or earth shattering, but it was still good nonetheless.
Wow, so you hated it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I am, you know, I'm looking forward to checking it out, you know, soon. But I, you know, over the holiday around Thanksgiving, I had my own theater expedition. And it's, you know, I initially planned on singing Encanto. But I was coerced, maybe would be a word to describe it. I was convinced to go see Ridley Scott's House of Gucci instead, as a date night with my girlfriend. So we embraced the camp. We got a little bit of alcohol in our system, and I had some movie theater, you know, those little mini bottles of champagne or as well. So we did it the Gucci Italian way, Zach, and I went in and I have thoughts.
Well, let's hear them. Well, first, would you like to give the rundown, or do you want me to set the scene?
Set the scene, please.
Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Al Pacino, Jeremy Irons, and of course, Jared Leto. That's the cast for Ridley Scott's second film of the year, following up The Last Duel with a very different movie here, but not as unanimous as Encanto. We've got a 61% critic score, an 83% audience score. Johnny, I'll let you reveal your score after I lay down the plot here. House of Gucci is inspired by the shocking true story of the family behind the Italian fashion empire. When Patrizia Reggiani, an outsider from humble beginnings, marries into the Gucci family, her unbridled ambition begins to unravel the family legacy and triggers a reckless spiral of betrayal, decadence, revenge, and ultimately murder. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, nicely done. Yeah, so I would say now again, I was slightly under the influence when I was watching this. It was late at night as well. And it is a long movie. Like, it's kind of shockingly long. But I will say, watching it, and I will abide but largely by what I said on Twitter after the fact, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I was, at least mildly entertained throughout, this long kind of run time of this years.
It spans quite some time, right?
Yes, it does. And it kind of aims to be this epic story, and it doesn't really feel like the film it's trying to be so much better than it really is. In one regard, I think that might be probably a problem with Ridley Scott, like what he was aiming to do, where the story and what the actors are doing feels like it just is so much. It's not trying to be like this prestige thing. It's more like this campy, more fun, relaxed, entertaining sort of kind of grimy, schlocky almost kind of film, which I think that's not a bad thing. I think that could be a really good thing. I think that's why I enjoyed it, as much as I did. Not to say I thought it was great or necessarily all that good, but I was entertained. I would say on a scale of 0 to 100, as far as my score goes, I'd say like 60, 65. I'd say, I on the slightly more positive side. I know some people did not like this movie. They thought it was terrible. They think it's bad. I think by and large, I liked the actors. I liked their performances. They're all kind of doing something a little bit different, which keeps things interesting. Jared Leto in particular is just playing a cartoon character, which is hilarious and I think works actually. And I really didn't have that many issues with it. It's not an attractive film, which again kind of seems like it flies in the face of a Gucci inspired story or a movie about the Gucci family. I think someone, again, I said this on Twitter as well. I think the issue with this and why people maybe are so down on it is that it's kind of trying to have it both ways. It wants to be this schlocky, kind of goofy, entertaining film, but then also wants to be this prestige, important, epic, like Oscar contender. And it's really not. Maybe in someone else's hands, it could have been, Martin Scorsese kind of take on this, making it almost like a Godfather style crime epic would have worked. Or if you go the complete opposite direction and get someone, I've seen people mention Tom Ford and then also Baz Luhrmann, who did, Great Gatsby and Moulin Rouge.
Make it like super stylized.
Make it super stylized, super poppy and flashy and colorful and campy and over the top, like The Great Gatsby. I think that would really work. So try to have it both ways. I don't think it really works to that degree, unfortunately, but I like the performances. I thought the performances were pretty good. I thought it was entertaining enough. And I wasn't mad at it. I didn't walk out thinking, oh,
you weren't mad at it. That's what you want from a movie.
That's the highest compliment, is because to be clear, I was very down on this movie coming into it. I was not optimistic. I didn't even really plan on seeing it. I did give it a chance and I wasn't mad at it. I wasn't like, I felt like I wasted my time. Like I wasted, the experience on it. It was fine, decent entertainment. And that's all I was really looking for out of this.
Well, that's reassuring considering I was also in the same boat as you ahead of time, and a near 3-hour runtime is not the most appealing thing when it comes to a movie that you don't necessarily want to see. So maybe it will earn a viewing, but I've got a couple questions for you. First things first, Father, Son, House of Gucci, the accents, it's all we've heard about. It's all we've seen. What's the verdict? I know people were saying Lady Gaga sounds more Russian than Italian. Like you said, Jared Leto is just kind of Mario in a completely separate movie over here. What's the overall verdict?
So they are all over the place. Admittedly, they are. Yeah, Lady Gaga does sound Russian. Jared Leto does sound like a cartoon character. Jeremy Irons, Al Pacino, Adam Driver, they're kind of the same, kind of like the same breed of actor to a degree. So they're kind of doing their own little light Italian accent. It's not super stylized or dramatic or anything. They all, on their own, maybe you could be more critical of them, but I felt inside the context of the movie and in collaboration with these other performers in their own accents, I just kind of like, I didn't mind the variations. I didn't mind the different extremes, or the accuracy, the historical accuracy. It was just, it didn't bother me like I thought it would. It didn't bother me as much as it did in the trailers, for example. It didn't make me roll my eyes like it did. You just kind of buy into it once you're in the world and kind of in the story. It didn't make me take notches down on the performances or anything like that.
Well, that's reassuring as well. But speaking of Gaga, who's obviously got the most attention here, I would say. First return to the screen since being nominated for an Oscar for a movie that I deeply, deeply love, A Star is Born. How does she stack up compared to that performance? I know it's obviously something completely different, but how is she on screen? Is she established as a fantastic actress now, or is it still like okay, she hit it big in A Star is Born, I'm still not sold? And she's also getting lots of Oscar buzz for this just because of like who she is. Is it justifiable?
I think the it's kind of a split verdict on that. I wasn't crazy about her in A Star is Born. I thought she was impressive for her first like major film role, leading film role. Of course, she got her Oscar nomination. Didn't think that was necessary. Here, I don't think it's necessary for her to get an Oscar nom. Although I will say I was more taken with her work here than I was in A Star is Born, because it is so very transformative, and she is aiming to kind of do almost like a method transformation into this person, this real, figure. She does so many different, I think that the evolution of her character was really the most impressive thing, and how she goes from kind of this almost like naive and kind of like romantic and kind of princess, like she wants to get involved in this family, and she really does put her heart out on her sleeve for this Adam Driver's character. And then the way she changes when she's kind of indoctrinated into the Gucci lifestyle, and then the way she changes once her husband starts to turn away from her. And she really does. She is like kind of a broken human, and you certainly feel that. And she's hamming it up at some points, and she's kind of very dramatic and very serious, but then also funny in other parts. So it is a kind of a mixed bag all over the place. I do think it is a good performance. I think there are great parts of this performance. I think that I understand why there's some Oscar buzz, Oscar potential there. If she gets nominated, I won't be mad. Like I said earlier, I'm not mad at it. Do I think it's necessary? Absolutely not. If she doesn't get nominated, I won't be bothered, but I also wouldn't be terribly mad or, surprised by any means if she does end up getting in.
Gotcha. Well, I want to do a quick status check here. This is my last question for you. The Last Duel was a pretty big flop. Ridley's on his fuck it tour, just saying like random, like millennials are ruining movies because of phones and social media, and like just it's something to be seen. But if The Last Duel is a flop, this movie is middle to leaning positive, as you said.
Yeah.
Can we get a status check on Ridley? I know you're fired up about Kit Bag just because of Joaquin Phoenix, the story, the material. Are you worried about the direction that he's heading in? Has it affected your enthusiasm about a movie like Kit Bag or something else that's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I'm certainly worried. I think you'd have to be crazy not to be, because I was not a fan of The Last Duel either, and that was a flop, horrible flop. With regards to its box office, this is doing well at the box office. This is doing better than any R-rated adult drama of pretty much the entire pandemic, and Lady Gaga's star power certainly has something to do with it. Kit Bag, I'm still in love with that idea. I'm still in love with Joaquin Phoenix in that role. Jodie Comer is very talented, and I think her getting another big role is to be excited about. And big epic historical dramas and we don't see those that often. The Last Duel is kind of part of a dying breed of movie, and maybe if the movie's not good, I can't really go to bat for it too much. I can't say that, oh, people should turn out for it. Oh, they're ruined by their phones or this and that. I get where he's coming from to some degree, and I get that he's mad about superhero movies kind of oversaturating the market and turning people's brains into rewired for some other sort of entertainment, not really allowing for diversity in the marketplace. I hear all that, understand that. I think he's a legend, of course. I do think he's all over the place, up and down as far as quality goes, especially in recent times. But I remain cautiously optimistic. We'll see what the script looks like for Kit Bag. I love Joaquin Phoenix. I really have faith in him to deliver. Jodie Comer, of course, as well. We'll see how it goes. And then, of course, there's Gladiator 2, Gladiator sequel coming after that. That's what he says he wants to do after that. So that's another in the same vein. Of course, it's Roman, ancient Rome, and that period is very different from Kit Bag and Napoleonic France in Europe. So I'm glad we're getting some diversity there. We'll see what the script looks like for Gladiator. We'll see who gets involved with that as far as actors and cast and everything. But Ridley Scott, I feel like, is one of the last filmmakers who can get these projects off the ground and make them at least interesting. We'll see how good it is. I'm crossing my fingers and my toes to hope it's amazing. And same goes for Gladiator 2. I really do like the original Gladiator. So we'll see. I'm nervous, but I can't say that I can completely temper my excitement for those projects.
Well, there you have it, folks. The House of Gucci. Any final thoughts, Johnny?
Don't break your neck trying to see it. It's your mileage is certainly going to vary. If I were to watch it again, maybe my feelings would be different, in a different setting or a different mood. It's just not, it's not all that it was cracked up to be. I was more excited for it earlier in the year, and it kind of waned as we saw and heard more about it. And it kind of ended up where I expected it to be. Although I did get more entertainment value out of it than I perhaps expected, and the performances were a little bit better than I expected. This is not the awards or Oscars juggernaut that you expected to be. It's not the schlocky, campy fun fest that you might have heard it was. I thought this was just pretty middle of the road, maybe disappointing in some regards, maybe better in other regards, but see it for yourself if you want to, but don't go out of your way necessarily.
I won't. Well, it's good to be back. It's good to be back inside the film room, and we apologize for the delay, but we hope it was worth the wait. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening week in and week out. We greatly appreciate the support.
Absolutely. Great to be back. We gave you a mega return episode. Hopefully you enjoyed our thoughts on all the news and all the movies we're getting caught up on. It's the best time of year for, whether it's the holidays, friends and family, new movie releases, award screeners. I'm certainly enjoying it and trying to do my part. To stay tuned with everything we got going on with regards to all that and giveaways and other news. Follow on Twitter, follow on Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. We have all the podcast episodes over there in addition to some interviews that has done and other content. And we have more on the way and coming up in the new year. And those accounts can be found at Inside Film Room.
And while you are at it, subscribe to The Rewind, our newsletter, so you can be in the know for all of our giveaways, all of our news, all of our reviews, everything that is all over the place on social media. We'll consolidate it for you and send it in The Rewind. You can subscribe to that on our website. And subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, anything that has a podcast, we are there. And come back next week. We'll be talking about Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. We'll see you then.